and welcome to this edition of Own the Journey, where we get the opportunity to speak with incredible people from around the world. Today, we're at the 417 Think Summit, where we have the opportunity to meet with Mr. Phil Graves. We appreciate you taking some time to meet with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know your history, tell us just a little bit about where you've been and how you landed where you're at. I mean, it's an interesting story and an interesting path.
Yeah, you bet. So it's in some ways kind of like the Johnny Cash song, I've been everywhere, man. I was just sharing before we got on camera that I'm from Texas originally, studied accounting and finance at Texas A&M, and then went down a very traditional career path where I worked for PwC and Deloitte doing corporate finance consulting in the Dallas practice, and then transitioned to the San Francisco Bay Area practice. And then I, during this journey, thought long and hard about, gosh, we spend so much of our lives working as professionals, providing for your family. Is there an opportunity to combine things that you're personally passionate about, your mission, your values, your morals, whatever you call it, with the work that you do? And in my house, we care deeply about people and planet. We're hunters and anglers and backpackers. We love eating clean food and knowing where our food comes from. And so had a unique opportunity to transition over to Patagonia, the clothing company, which was launching a food business called Patagonia Provisions and a corporate venture capital fund, and was there for 7 years, working really closely in both food and fiber innovation and supply chains. And then had the good pleasure of meeting the folks over at Wild Idea Buffalo Company. It's one of our Patagonia venture partner firms that we invested in, and was a board member, advisor, and cheerleader for this family-run regenerative buffalo ranch for many years. And transitioned to Springfield to be closer to family back in Texas. And my good pals over at Wild Idea said, Phil, we'd love for you to join us and take over as CEO. And it's been a great run for the last year.
Wow, that's exciting. So talk to us about what it was like. I mean, a family-run business, it's been that way for many years. You're stepping in as kind of the outsider. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, learning every day, candidly. I had some fortunate experiences in my career to draw from, but every company is unique. Running a vertically integrated food company during a pandemic and with labor rates going out of control has been challenging, and I've learned a lot. But I think for my own journey, what matters most is ensuring that the mission and the integrity of what we're doing and regenerative organic agriculture and raising buffalo over large landscapes, harvesting them in the field, which is what we've done for 25 years, which is best for the animals, it's best for the quality of the meat. Those things I want to leave unchanged. Essentially just scale this thing up. Right now, grass-fed, grass-finished, and field-harvested buffalo are probably 0.1% of the market. It's so small, there's not even any market studies that look at it.
Yeah.
So even though we're the biggest, we need to scale up what we're doing for environmental reasons and for human health reasons, and that's what I'm looking to do in partnership with the family.
Yeah, that's super exciting. How has the experiences of Patagonia and startup and all of those things, how have they folded into those growth plans? I mean, you take a family business and you try to put it on a fast growth path. Sometimes it can break, but those experiences have to lead into that a little bit.
They sure do. The benefit of working within Patagonia's venture team is we got to fund a dozen early stage companies and help them grow. So I often would sit on the board, provide supply chain connections, whether they're working on recycled materials or regenerative organic agricultural products, and help them along the way. And so I certainly haven't seen everything, but I've looked at a lot of different industries. I've seen a lot of different pitfalls. And importantly, I have been very blessed to have a great network of people that I can lean on that have far more expertise in certain functional areas that I don't have.
Right.
And so I think that's what we're really drawing from at my time at Wild Idea, is just, essentially taking some pages out of the Patagonia playbook and some things that these other startups have done well and applying them in a way that's authentic to Wild Idea Buffalo Company.
Yeah, and staying true to the mission and obviously the values that you and the company have.
100%.
Yeah, I love that. So for those that are trying to get funding, trying to get a startup going, having looked at, I'm sure, lots of opportunities and lots of deals, what advice would you give to somebody who's considering those things?
The market's tough right now with Silicon Valley Bank collapsing. A lot of lenders are like turtles pulling their head back in their shells right now. Yeah. Venture capital is tight. So what I'd encourage entrepreneurs to do, especially mission-driven ones, is find the right investment partner for you. Make sure they care about the mission area that you're focused on. There are a lot of family office investment arms and foundations that are still funding right now. And those are the sources of capital I think it is best to tap into versus a traditional Sandhill Road venture capital fund.
Right.
So definitely work those connections, be authentic in what you're doing. Don't try and greenwash. I think there's a lot of companies out there that are doing that, but with the authentic providers of mission-driven capital, they can separate the wheat and the chaff pretty quickly. So make sure your supply chain's buttoned up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but make sure you have a roadmap to get to continuous improvement over time and understand what your North Star is for your business. And then just be yourself and work your network and try and find those family offices, angel funds that are willing to support the good work that you're doing. And you're going to fail many times, and just keep at it. Be aggressive in your tenacity, and you'll find one. And it's a network effect from there. Well, they'll pull you into their syndicate of investors and help you on the journey.
Yeah, I love that. How, in the deals that you looked at and were exposed to, how do you weed out, if you will, the difference between those that have a real North Star and one that is a paper North Star, if that makes sense?
Yeah. You ask a lot of questions. One of the most telling ones that I will always end an introductory conversation with is, what do you want to do long term with this? And you can see pretty quickly, like, I want to triple revenue in 3 years and then sell it to private equity. Like, you could be mission driven, but for the most part, if this is your mission driven business, you're going to want to see it through. And maybe there won't be an exit or liquidity event. Maybe you stay private. And when I was running Patagonia's venture capital fund, we had a perpetual holding period. Like Warren Buffett has famously said, his favorite holding period is forever. And so we tried to find entrepreneurs that wanted to take that long-term mindset, because to build a true mission-driven business, you can't do it overnight. And that's one of the main things that we would really try and unpack is, why did you found it? Tell me your story, your journey. Why are you building this business? And for the most part, everybody we funded identified an intractable environmental and social problem, and then they built a business and assembled a team that could help unpack solutions to that problem. So that's kind of the 1-2 step, and then take that into your long-term vision for the business. And it wasn't always perfect, but that's how we would approach it.
Well, it has to be a situation, my own experiences, when somebody is mission-driven, that the intentionality, the tenacity that they have to kind of persevere through the challenges of the business are going to be very real, versus somebody who's just looking for the buck or looking for the money, or maybe isn't as committed to the long-term goals. And because we all know that navigating through business is going to be hard. It's going to suck at times. And if you don't have that intentionality, it's got to play into how quickly they fold.
That's right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. When somebody is trying to find a family office or investment organization that aligns with that, any advice or thoughts on that? I know that it's tough for a lot of people who are starting out, that they don't have a network. They don't have people plugged into that.
Yes, and I certainly didn't have it. I mean, I had a few folks from my time at Deloitte in the consulting world, but in terms of the impact community, I'm very blessed just to have that time at Patagonia, where we had an incredible network to lean on internally and externally. And so what I'd share is, for folks that don't really know how to tap into it, turn to Google and look at which foundations and family offices are pouring into this area where you're trying to solve this problem, and then make a connection. So if you don't know somebody directly, look on LinkedIn, see if you're connected by 2 or 3 degrees to somebody that's there. And then I'm a big believer in giving someone something that helps them on their journey, as opposed to just knocking on their door and asking for money. Yeah. So, perhaps there's a portfolio company that they have today, and you have something that could benefit that company on their journey. Offer that up and say, can I speak with you and share more about it? They'll probably take your call if it's really going to add value to their portfolio. And then, by the way, they're going to want to pay you back in the form of a favor, and you could tell your story. This is my business, and here's the problem that we're solving. And by the way, it's aligned with your area too.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that. We're big believers in giving before you receive. So
absolutely,
it sounds like that's right down the same pathway. So what's next? What do you see around the corner, other than obviously growing carefully and intentionally? What's next?
We're in the education game right now, and we have been for 25 years. I feel like if you look at how most food in our country is raised, if it's an animal, or grown, if it's a crop, you won't be happy about that supply chain. You've got harmful pesticides and chemicals and synthetic fertilizers that are ending up in watersheds and killing fish populations. You've got animal welfare atrocities happening at feedlots and confined feeding areas and slaughterhouses, and most people just don't take the time to unpack where their food is coming from and what the alternatives are. And I feel like if we can be transparent, as we always are, but then tell that story and show, hey, here's our supply chain. We've got 36,000 acres at our home ranch, and when you layer in our sourcing power partners, we have nearly 500,000 acres where the animals have 50 acres per head to roam. They spend their entire lives on the prairie, and we harvest them on the prairie. And that food, as a result, is better for you and the environment. And if people really understand the difference between Wild Idea Buffalo Company and the standard meat that they're purchasing right now, they probably pay a premium. And it's not that we're making more money, it's actually far more expensive to do it the Wild Idea way.
Yeah.
But we think it's worth it, and we think that if customers will take the time to examine the supply chain of where their food's coming from, we'll bring them along in that journey and hopefully get a lifelong customer out of it.
Yeah, I love that. So I heard, in this is maybe just a little bit out of your lane, but I heard a nutritionist speak recently, who said that one of the biggest mistakes that we've made in the United States is to try to tell people to eat less. But what we need to be telling people is to eat the right amount of the right foods, and it will solve massive amounts of health problems, with weight problems, with diabetes, and all these other things. You have thoughts on that?
I do, yeah. Most of the food in our country has had a nutritional density profile that's been stair-stepping downward over the last 50 years. And the reason for that is because our soil is becoming less healthy. One, we're losing it through too much tilling. The topsoil's eroding and ending up who knows where, but it's not on the farm or the ranch where it was initially intact. And two, whenever you treat animals as commodities and grow crops as commodities, you're feeding that system with synthetic fertilizers, and often it's with monoculture. So corn, wheat, or soy, that's what goes in to fuel much of the food and calories that we consume. So if instead you flip that and build healthy soil, if you have buffalo that graze over hundreds of acres every single day, thousands of acres over the course of a year, they're eating dozens of different types of native prairie grasses with micronutrients and macronutrients. It's that adage, you are what you eat eats, right? So yes, you'll pay more for a Wild Idea buffalo steak, but the nutritional density in that meat is far better for you. And you're gonna get more protein, more B vitamins, a better omega-3 to 6 ratio, and you'll be healthier as an end result.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you very much.
You bet.
Well, as we wrap up today, what's some of the best advice that you've ever received?
Professionally, it's hire people smarter than you, which I'm a Texas Aggie, I was sharing earlier, so it's easy to do that for me. But it's all about the team. I mean, ultimately, when I reflect on some of the things that our teams have accomplished over time, it's because I was very intentional in recruiting and finding complementary skills, a diversity of skill sets to bring to the table, whether it's cultural differences or diverse perspectives from engineers or supply chain experts or sustainability experts, but basically bringing together a team that's very complementary in nature, and then giving them the autonomy to do great things, you know, kind of serving as a bumper basically in the bowling analogy, kind of nudging them in this direction and that, but then letting them run just like the buffalo, give them room to roam, and they'll do great things.
That's so good. Well, Phil, thanks for taking some time to be with us today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take good care.
You too.